Indeed, they cannot die anymore because they are like angels and are children of God, being children of the resurrection. There's a song titled Children of the Revolution by a 70s glam rock band named T-Rex. And the song includes the refrain, "You won't fool the children of the revolution." It's a really catchy tune, and I hear it in the back of my mind every time I read or hear the phrase that Jesus used in this morning's gospel, children of the resurrection. In my head, I start singing, "You won't fool the children of the resurrection. No, you won't fool the children of the resurrection." And the refrain is somewhat appropriate since in our gospel reading this morning, the Sadducees are using the Torah to try to fool Jesus, who is the first child of the resurrection, according to 1 Corinthians 15. Now, the Sadducees were a wealthy, elite, and exclusive religious sect within Second Temple Judaism. One could not become a Sadducee. You could not convert into the Sadducee sect. You could only be born into the Sadducee group. And based on their reading of the Torah, they denied the resurrection as well as the existence of angels. They felt the Torah gave no sufficient evidence for resurrection or angels, which is hard to imagine because the Torah is full of angels. My Bible professors in college would often say, the Sadducees were sad, you see, because they did not believe in the resurrection nor angels. And in our reading, the Sadducees are trying to fool Jesus by presenting him with this hypothetical scenario in which a woman's husband dies, forcing her to then marry her deceased husband's brother, which would be what you do in accordance with the teachings of the Torah as a Jew. Specifically, the teaching in Deuteronomy chapter 5, which lays out the laws concerning levirate marriage. Levirate marriage. It comes from the Latin levir, which means brother-in-law. It's the name for this marriage to one's brother-in-law after the husband dies. So in the Sadducee scenario, this woman has to end up getting married 7 times because her husbands keep dying on her. So their question for Jesus is, whose wife will the woman be in the afterlife? And although the men of the ancient patriarchal, and according to our standards today, fairly misogynistic world, the men had little difficulty imagining a man with many wives at the same time. They could not grasp the possibility of a woman with more than one husband. So obviously, according to the Sadducees, Moses must have denied the resurrection since the Torah's teachings, God's teachings on levirate marriage, would become nonsensical when it comes to the afterlife, because you can't have a woman with more than one husband. So the Sadducees were using the Torah to exclude possibility of the resurrection and angels, and also using the Torah as a kind of weapon or tool to humiliate and to make a fool out of Jesus and Jesus' followers, as well as the Pharisees. Now, we often associate the Pharisees as Jesus' main opponents, and we usually think of the Pharisees as hypocritical. But actually, the Pharisees, among all the Jewish groups of Second Temple Judaism, had the most in common with Jesus. They believed in the resurrection. They believed in angels. So the Pharisees were actually Jesus' closest interlocutors and friends. But Jesus had deep disagreements with the Sadducees. So Jesus responded to the Sadducees by saying, essentially, you won't fool the children of the resurrection. Your narrow-minded thinking will never grasp the ever expansive and inclusive love and life that will be enjoyed by God's children. Although the children of the resurrection will indeed be reunited with departed loved ones, as we remembered just last Sunday for All Saints and All Souls Day, their relationships will no longer be bound and limited in the same way, no longer bound by blood ties or by marriage. The children of the resurrection will be like angels. And by mentioning angels here, Jesus is sneaking in a little jab at the Sadducees, who, remember, don't believe in angels. So the Torah's teaching on levirate marriage was extremely important in this life, because the Torah's teachings protected women from ostracism and destitution and even danger, which was often associated with barrenness and widowhood in the ancient world. Jesus makes it clear throughout the Gospels, and I think he's making it clear here as well, that the Torah, the divine teachings, were given by God to humanity not as a tool for narrow-minded thinking or for setting up walls and boundaries for exclusive clubs. The Torah was given by God to humanity to protect the vulnerable and to build up a safe and healthy and welcoming and ever inclusive and expanding community of love. In order to have a healthy and safe community, we need to have healthy boundaries, but those are always set up to protect the vulnerable. This is a very important truth. The Torah is not meant to exclude, but rather to protect and include. And that truth applies to the entire Bible. The Bible is not to be used as a weapon of mass discrimination. All of our sacred scriptures are concerned with protecting the vulnerable and building up a safe and welcoming and inclusive community. And Jesus makes that very clear at the beginning of Luke's Gospel, which we just heard from. He launches his ministry in the synagogue by summing up his entire mission. And he does that by quoting the prophet Isaiah. The prophets are always concerned with protecting the vulnerable. Jesus says, I'm here to protect the weak and the poor and the vulnerable. I'm here to liberate the oppressed and to build up the beloved community, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. That is my mission among you. So, whenever we hear someone using the words of Jesus or verses from Scripture to hurt those who are vulnerable, or to create an exclusive religious elite like the Sadducees, let's not be fooled. If you ever hear me doing that, do not be fooled. Call me out on it. Because what we are hearing is someone who is working in opposition to the very clear mission of Jesus Christ, which is to protect those who are weak and vulnerable, to liberate the oppressed, and to build up the beloved community. Here at Christ Church Eureka, we have community guidelines. They're posted in the Heritage Room and in Lewis Hall. Many of you have heard me say, and I'll keep saying it, all are welcome, as we just sang beautifully together this morning. All are welcome, but not all behaviors are welcome. We do not welcome behaviors that create an unsafe environment, especially for those who are vulnerable among us, especially for the children among us. We do not welcome behaviors that are disrespectful and that tear down the community. We do not tolerate those behaviors. We do welcome people who are different than us. We welcome people who look different, and they dress different, may smell different. We welcome people who have different beliefs, or even have no belief at all. The Episcopal Church is very unique in this way. We do not require people to subscribe to particular doctrines. Spirituality author Ronald Rolheiser, in his excellent book, Holy Longing, says, "The Scriptures assure us that heaven will be enjoyed within the communal embrace of billions of persons of every temperament, race, background, and ideology imaginable." I think that's exactly what Jesus is talking about in the gospel today. A universal heart, he says, will be required to live there in heaven. Thus, in this life, it is good to get some practice at this. Good to be constantly in situations that stretch the heart, maybe even painfully stretch the heart. Preachers, teachers, and priests who use the Bible to hurt and exclude others will not fool the children of the resurrection, who know that God's mission is to protect the weak and vulnerable, to liberate the oppressed, and to build up a community of inclusive love and welcoming embrace. This last week and weekend, several of us gathered in Sacramento for the 2019 Diocesan Convention, which is the annual business meeting for the Episcopal Diocese of Northern California, which is comprised of about 68 parishes and 14,000 members. So all the clergy of Christ Church attended, Pam and Ann and Father Shoemaker, along with our elected lay delegates, Peg Gardner, Paul Gossard, Elizabeth Harper Lawson, and Kathleen Lake, as well as our senior warden joined us. They all participated in this meeting that began for most of us at Thursday afternoon and then ended yesterday at noon. So we're pretty tired. It's about 10 hours of driving in between, so pray for us. At the convention, we held several elections and passed some important resolutions, including a resolution to establish a diocesan commission on the environment that will encourage and support congregations like us to be environmentally friendly and to honor creation in all our ministries. And this resolution happens to coincide beautifully with the theme of this year's Interfaith Thanksgiving Sing, which will be held here at Christ Church November 20th at 7 p.m. We'll be singing songs with the Sufis and our Jewish brothers and sisters and other Christian denominations in the area. And our theme is gratitude and care for creation. And at convention, we had all these fruitful conversations and debate around several proposed resolutions, so much that I started thinking of us Episcopalians as children of the resolution. And then that T-Rex song came back into my head. And it was a real honor and privilege to be a part of conversations and resolutions that can impact thousands of people in positive ways. Even more than that, can impact the whole Episcopal Church and the whole Anglican communion around the world. It's a real honor to be a clergy delegate and a lay delegate, and I hope many of you consider running for the lay delegate position in the future. At the heart of the convention was a presentation by our guest speaker, Mary Palmer, who spoke about evangelizing through invitation and welcoming through hospitality and connecting others to the church by providing a sense of belonging. She's written this book titled Invite, Welcome, Connect. Invite, Welcome, Connect, with a foreword by our presiding bishop, Michael Curry. And I really would like us all to read this book and to discuss it in the next few months. Mary Palmer said that someone approached her at another conference after hearing her talk about evangelism and the importance of intentionally inviting people to the Episcopal Church. The person asked Mary, why should we evangelize? Don't you know that everyone who should be an Episcopalian already is? that question reflects, I think, a common thinking among Episcopalians. It reflects this belief that the Episcopal Church really only exists for cradle Episcopalians, which would exclude me. I did not grow up in the Episcopal Church. And that kind of thinking is basically Sadducee thinking. Like the Sadducees, you could not join the Sadducees, you had to be born into it. That kind of exclusive, narrow-minded Sadducee thinking will make the church not only sad, you see, but also irrelevant and eventually non-existent. So I want us to learn together how we can become now children of the resurrection here at Christ Church Eureka. Children who have universal hearts that will stretch open not only by encountering people who are different than us, but by inviting them to connect with us and to enrich us as a community, so that we can fulfill together the intent of the Torah and the mission, the clear mission of Jesus Christ, to protect those who are vulnerable and to liberate the oppressed and to build up a safe and healthy and inclusive community of love. And I want to be able to say with confidence to all the false teachers out there who seek to use the Bible as a weapon to exclude others and to tear others down, when it comes to Christ Church Eureka, you won't fool the children of the resurrection.